Manchester United may have just received the transfer boost they didn't see coming. Because behind the scenes, one of their biggest names from recent years is sending very different signals than fans expected. But that's not the only story moving fast tonight. There's also a midfield situation developing at Old Trafford right now, and it involves not one, not two, but three different names. One club legend has already picked his priority target. Another United icon believes the club has been saving their war chest for a single specific superstar. And tonight, we're breaking down every single detail. This is everything you need to know. Let's start with the story that's caught almost everyone off guard. Marcus Rashford. For months, the conversation around Rashford has felt settled. A player heading for the exit. A relationship that looked beyond repair. A summer where United would simply move on. But here's where things get interesting. According to Fabrizio Romano, Rashford has now sent positive signals to Manchester United. Signals suggesting he is genuinely open to staying at the club and restarting under the new setup with Michael Carrick. Let that sink in for a moment. This isn't a throwaway rumour. This is coming from one of the most trusted transfer journalists in world football. And it gets more specific than that. Romano reports that a positive meeting took place between Rashford's representatives and Manchester United just 2 days ago. In that meeting, the two sides reportedly discussed, amicably, the possibility of reintegrating Rashford into the first team and into pre-season training. Now, why does this matter? Because pre-season is where reputations get rebuilt. It's where a manager decides who fits the project and who doesn't. If Rashford is genuinely part of those plans again, that's not a small gesture. That's the club signalling they're willing to give him another chance under Carrick's management. But, and this is important, nothing here is guaranteed. The transfer window remains open for several more weeks, and Romano's report is clear that Rashford could still leave Old Trafford if a strong offer arrives. One that works for both the player and the club. So what does that actually mean in plain terms? It means Rashford isn't closing the door on United, but United isn't closing the door on a sale either. This is a situation in motion, not a situation resolved. From a football perspective, here's why this matters so much. Rashford is still one of the most gifted attacking players this club has developed in the last decade. Pace, directness, end product. When it clicks, there are very few defenders in the Premier League who enjoy facing him. But the last 2 years have been complicated. Form dipped, trust eroded. The relationship between player and club reached a point where a permanent exit felt almost inevitable. Now? It's not inevitable anymore. If Carrick sees value in resetting that relationship, and if Rashford responds with the right attitude in pre-season, this could turn into one of the more fascinating subplots of United's summer. And if it doesn't work out, United still have the option to sell, and Rashford still has suitors who would welcome him. Either way, this is no longer a closed case. It's officially back open. But that's not the whole story tonight, because while Rashford's situation develops in attack, a completely different transfer battle is unfolding in midfield. And this one has layers. Let's start with the newest name in the conversation, Alex Scott. According to Ben Jacobs, Manchester United are set to explore a move for the Bournemouth midfielder. Now here's the detail most fans have missed. Bournemouth aren't just hoping to keep Scott around. They actively want him to sign a new contract, one that would include a release clause. And the valuation being placed on him currently sits at around £80 million. 80 million. For a player who is still developing his reputation at the highest level, that number alone tells you everything about how Bournemouth view his ceiling, and how difficult this negotiation could become if United decide to push forward. But Scott isn't the only name on the list. Jacobs also confirms that Aurélien Tchouaméni and Carlos Baleba remain on Manchester United's midfield shortlist. Two very different profiles, two very different price points, two very different levels of difficulty when it comes to actually getting a deal done. And then there's a fourth name, one that's been floating around Old Trafford's radar for months, Sandro Tonali. According to the same report, Tonali is admired by United's recruitment, but right now he's considered too expensive to pursue seriously. So, to summarise where things stand, United are exploring Alex Scott, they're monitoring Tchouaméni, they like Baleba, and they admire Tonali, even if the price currently puts him out of reach. That's 4 names, 1 position, and a summer that's about to get very interesting in midfield. But here's where the situation becomes complicated, because while Jacobs is reporting all four of those names circulating, two Manchester United legends have just given very different opinions on who the priority should actually be. Let's start with Paul Scholes. Speaking recently, Scholes made his stance on Tonali unmistakably clear. He said the centre of the pitch is, in his words, a big problem for Manchester United. He pointed out that he's been saying it for 6 months, long before this became a mainstream transfer topic. And he confirmed that he personally loves Tonali as a player, dating back to his time at Newcastle. Scholes did acknowledge the competition. He noted that several clubs are reportedly interested in Tonali, including Tottenham. And then came the most revealing part of his comments. Scholes said it doesn't sound like Manchester United are currently in for Tonali. But he made it clear, in his opinion, they should be. He pointed to Tonali's experience in English football. 2 to 3 seasons at Newcastle. Familiarity with the physicality and pace of the Premier League. Yes, there was a period where suspension kept him off the pitch. But according to Scholes, when fully available, Tonali is, in his words, a top-class midfield player. That's not a small endorsement. That's one of United's most respected former midfielders publicly pushing the club toward a specific target. But that's still not the whole picture. Because while Scholes is championing Tonali, Rio Ferdinand is telling a very different story. According to Ferdinand, Manchester United haven't been spending freely this summer for a simple reason. He believes the club is holding money back, specifically for one man, Aurélien Tchouaméni. Ferdinand's exact words were that if Tchouaméni becomes available in this market, Manchester United, quote, are not going to miss. He went further, saying the club simply can't afford to miss on that one. Now here's why that claim is so significant. Ferdinand isn't just speculating about interest, he's suggesting there's a financial strategy behind the scenes, a deliberate decision to preserve funds specifically for a move on Tchouaméni, rather than spreading that budget across multiple smaller deals. If that's accurate, it reframes everything we just discussed. Because while Alex Scott, Baleba and Tonali are all being explored, monitored or admired, Ferdinand's theory suggests Tchouaméni might be the one name United are truly building toward. So which is it? Is the priority Tonali, as Scholes believes, or is it Tchouaméni, as Ferdinand suggests? Right now, based on everything reported, the honest answer is, we don't fully know yet. And that's exactly why this situation is worth watching closely over the coming weeks. Let's break down what each scenario would actually mean for United. If Tonali arrives, United get a proven Premier League performer, someone who understands the tempo of English football immediately, a player who wouldn't need an adaptation period. The risk is availability. His price is currently seen as prohibitive, and competition from clubs like Tottenham could drive that number even higher. If Tchouaméni arrives, United get a player with an entirely different profile, elite physicality, top-level European pedigree, and Champions League experience most of United's current midfield simply doesn't have. The challenge here is obvious. A move of that magnitude would require the exact kind of financial commitment Ferdinand is describing, and it would almost certainly be the headline deal of United's entire summer. And if it's Scott or Baleba instead, United would be investing in long-term potential rather than the finished product. Lower short-term risk, but also no guarantee it solves the midfield's problems immediately. So here's the bigger picture forming across all of these updates tonight. Manchester United's midfield rebuild is not a single transfer. It's a puzzle. 4 names, different price points, different opinions from different United legends, and a club that appears to be weighing multiple paths before committing to one. Which brings us to the biggest update of all, and it's not really a single transfer story. It's the pattern connecting everything we've covered tonight. United's summer isn't just about who they sign, it's about the identity they're trying to build. Because while that midfield rebuild is being debated by Scholes and Ferdinand, Marcus Rashford's situation shows a club also willing to look inward, to reassess, rather than simply discard. 2 very different stories, 1 consistent theme. Manchester United right now are a club in transition, trying to decide not just which players to bring in, but which parts of their current identity are worth saving. Let's quickly bring it all together. Marcus Rashford has sent positive signals about staying, with a constructive meeting between his camp and the club taking place recently. Reintegration into pre-season is reportedly being discussed, though a departure is still possible if the right offer comes in. In midfield, United are exploring Alex Scott, who Bournemouth value at around £80 million. Tchouaméni and Baleba remain on the shortlist. Tonali is admired, but currently viewed as too expensive. Paul Scholes is publicly backing a move for Tonali, calling the current midfield a big problem for the club. And Rio Ferdinand believes United's financial restraint this summer is deliberate, a strategy built entirely around making a move for Tchouaméni if he becomes available. 4 names. 2 legends with different opinions. 1 returning academy graduate reconsidering his future. That's where Manchester United stand tonight. So, what do you think? Should Manchester United push ahead with these deals? Which player would be your priority signing? And what happens next? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on notifications for more Manchester United updates here on Trafford Wire. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.